We are back with another episode of Dynasty Theory. Thanks for joining us on this fine Sunday morning. You know I'm here with Dan Lamagna. What's up, Dan?
JB, I'm feeling magical here today, man. Coming off a trip, Universal Florida there. Got my Disney in. I've got my house elf Dobby here to replace Mitch. Dobby's free. You heard him. And look at that. I'm bringing the magic to the Dynasty Theory podcast. Going to cast some spells on some good trade talk and wide receiver talk today, right?
What is wrong with you? I've never met, clearly I like memorabilia, but I've never met somebody that loves like the novelty stuff as much as you. Like, what are we doing here?
Dude, who doesn't need a house elf? This thing is great. Like, I had to binge watch 6 Harry Potter movies in time for this trip because I watched none of them. Got them all in, man, and I just got hooked on this house elf. I feel everyone needs a house elf. You don't need a house elf? You got 3 kids there now. They need a house elf, JB. And someone's got to carry the weight with Mitch out, you know? He's the Mitch replacement. Dobby.
Oh, boy. Anyway, we do have some fantasy football we want to talk about today. We're looking at players that people within the Dynasty community are interested in, right? If you go over to our partner, dynastydaddy.com, you go inside Jeremy's trade database, you can see a really nice visual that shows the players that are moving on a more frequent basis than other guys. You know, the bigger the dot, the more trades they're involved in. So what we wanted to do today was go through and look at 9 wide receivers. Now, for the listeners, I tried to pare it down a little bit. I said, Dan, let's go with 5 or 6. He said, JB, how about 8 or 9? And I'm not going to say no. Like, the more players we talk about, I'm on board. So there's 9 wide receivers we want to talk about today. For the most part, like in the younger category when it comes to age. But overall, Dan, before we even get into any of the specific names, is there anything that really stood out to you from like the general market? Any names that surprised you to see that they were involved in that many trades? Any younger guys that you're like, oh, I thought maybe they'd be involved in more than what we saw?
I don't know if there's necessarily surprise, JB. Maybe, in our world of active dynasty leagues, we're always moving and shopping just about anyone. I think what was telling to me more was it was a great exercise in trying to separate some of this young talent, kind of really getting a good gauge on their market value, what you could get for them, or if you want to obtain them. But I think there's a wide array of these young guys we're going to talk about today, these 9. It was one of those rare times where I was able to talk you up from 6 to 9. Not that that was hard. I twisted your arm. But I think they give us a good range of talent levels that we'll get into pretty shortly.
Yeah, there are some higher valued guys. There's some guys that are a little bit lower, but we wanted to focus on, again, the wide receivers that people are clearly interested in. We're not going to be talking about guys that have been involved in very few trades. We want to look at guys that have a market. And when you see those dots on dynastydaddy.com, certainly the bigger dots, they have that market. And it takes 2 to tango, if you will, right? You need to not only be willing to move that player, but also you need a willing trade partner, or vice versa, if they have a guy that you're looking at and you want to acquire. Starting off here, and I feel like he's been coming up a lot throughout the offseason, whether he's been a specific player that we've been focusing on or just somebody in passing. But Jordan Addison, involved in a lot of trades over, excuse me, frog in the throat, a lot of trades over the last week. So Dan, how do you look at him? Dynasty Daddy 26, wide receiver 26, KTC wide receiver 26, Fantasy Calc 27. I actually am a little bit lower on him than market at wide receiver 30.
JB, we were both 30. How that fell in place, I think we're thinking alike here. Jordan Addison, to me, as I really try to break these guys down, kind of feels like a lifetime number 2 receiver, not quite a T. Higgins or Jaylen Waddle. How soon could J.J. McCarthy, maybe Sam Darnold a little bit in the beginning, support 2 wide receivers? I do believe in Kelvin O'Connell. So, I like Jordan Addison. I don't love him, and that's probably why I'm a little bit lower like you are.
Yeah. Just looking at some of the numbers from last year, and I narrowed this down. The list came out to 102 wide receivers. I believe I went with a minimum of 35 targets. But Jordan Addison, 1.5 yards per route run throughout the 2023 season. That was 55th out of those 102 receivers. 7th most routes. The splits with and without Justin Jefferson, they're pretty glaring. 14% versus 22% target share. He had 10 games with Jefferson, 7 without. And that split came out to 11.8 PPR versus 14.7 PPR. Over the course of the season, he was wide receiver 31. This is in a high volume offense. This is with Justin Jefferson missing a good chunk of time, and with Kirk Cousins, who, is a quarterback that we all are fairly interested in at his current price from a dynasty perspective. I know, he was injured. Some other guys came in. Josh Dobbs was at the helm for a while, but there are certainly question marks. Targets per route run, 17%. That was 63rd out of those 102 receivers. 28% slot rate, 67th highest. So that's not, you look at these guys and it's like, okay, if they have a very high slot rate, they're really only going to be involved in 3 wide receiver sets. So that's not something that we really have to worry about with Jordan Addison, despite some of the other metrics and peripheral stats that we're looking at. Touchdown rate, we know it was high. If you're looking at regression, he certainly is a candidate. Yards after catch, he was kind of right in the middle, 12.5 average depth of target. Nothing that was extraordinary. So there are certainly things from a statistical standpoint, analytical standpoint, that kind of make you be a little concerned here. But do we expect the volume to come down at all? I don't think we do.
No, JB, and that's a good point. Like, he goes from year 1 to year 2, so you do expect hopefully some growth in his skill set. They lose KJ Osborne. Don't replace him with anybody. Hawkinson's coming off a serious injury, so is he 100% to start the year? And their wide receiver depth is really thin. I mean, Brandon Powell, Trent Sherfield, I don't know how they feel about anyone else beyond that on their depth chart, but on paper, it's really weak. So he needs to step up, and the volume should be there. So that's something definitely in his favor.
All right. So as we do, we're going to go through some rapid fire, and I try to break this down into different categories, and we'll see. Dan, you might be a little robot-like based on Mitch's comment there in the chat. I thought it was just me. I'm sitting here. I'm like, is it me? Well, I'm glad I asked that question. And isn't it funny that Mitch can be watching, but he can't be on? And now Dan's on mute. And now Dan is on mute. What are we doing here? Oh, man, no, nothing's coming through, buddy. So, like I said, while Dan figures this out, this is what happens when we're live. This is
I'm
live.
good now. I'm good.
All right, let's see if you sound like a robot. So I wanted to break this down into different categories, right? I wanted to look at it moving for picks, packaging up, cross-positional pivots, and then tiering down. So we're going to get through this fairly quickly because otherwise we are going to have a very long show, especially with Robot Dan over there. But Dan, Jordan Addison and Brian Robinson for a 25 first and a 25 second, 12 teams start 12.
I'm on Addison and B-Rob there. And it was a close one, but I like B-Rob a lot more than a second. So give me the duo. And it start 12 too. I think that's a key point. Give me the 2 studs.
And these are, well, we're using the term stud loosely, I think. But hey, come on, stud. And I like Brian Robinson and Jordan Addison as much as the next guy. Well, maybe not, because we talk about market value and I am a little bit lower. And all of these are going to be super flex. We're not dealing in any one quarterback for any of these conversations today. We're going to be packaging up here Jordan Addison and Brian Thomas for Puka Nacua, 12-team start 10.
That's a fun one, but I want the sure thing, and I do believe Puka is a sure thing, betting on his talent. So I'll take the one stud, JB.
Jordan Addison in a 25 first for Kyler Murray, 12-team start 11.
JB, start 11's interesting here. You know, a 2-for-1 deal, but I think it needs to be a high first so I could obtain a quarterback. If not, I got to take that Kyler side. I just can't give away a Kyler Murray. So that's very contingent on that. It has to be like a terrible team giving me that first. Otherwise, I take the Kyler side.
Yeah, this is going to be, it's a situation where you would like to think if you're moving off of that 25 first, it certainly makes sense for your team. Maybe it's somebody else's first, but if that's a mid to later 25 first, I want Kyler. Jordan Addison in a 25 second for Nico Collins in a 25 third, 12-team Superflex, start 9, half PPR.
Another fair trade. I'm going to go Nico in the third. I think Nico's enough ahead of Addison where I'll take that dip in the pick.
And I see Kev's comment earlier, and this is, I thought maybe we had the exact trade that he has here in the comments, but I think that one was kind of close there that we just mentioned. But he says adding a second to Addison to tier up is the move right now. I moved Addison in a 25 second for Devontae Smith to rebuilder. And I think that kind of lines up with that Nico Collins trade there, getting the third kicked in. So I tend to agree with a lot of these guys in this range being the Jordan Addison range, the mid to late, like wide receiver 2 to mid wide receiver 3 territory. I'm either looking to package up or move down, honestly, or if we can do something cross positionally that makes sense for my roster. But if you're sitting there with a lot of these guys like a Jordan Addison, we'll get to some guys later. JSN, I know he's very divisive. Jameson Williams, he's lower down. T. Higgins, Jayden Reed. I don't want a roster necessarily filled with those types of players. So I think there's plenty of opportunities here. And we can see that because these are the guys that are being traded most often across the dynasty landscape over the last 7 days. All right, cross positionally, Dan. Jordan Addison for Kenneth Walker, 12-team start 11.
I'm going to take the young running back path and build my team that way here. Give me Kenneth Walker.
I agree. Addison for James Cook. Half PPR too.
Same category here. I'll go with James Cook.
All right. And then we're going for an older quarterback here. Maybe we're contending, but we're a little iffy at quarterback too. 12-team start 9, Jordan Addison for Aaron Rodgers.
Unless I need a quarterback, JB, like, you know, we're big on Superflex. I'm not just going to trade a quarterback and not have one. But if I've at least got 2, I'd love to have Addison for 10 years than Rodgers for just a couple.
So I think Kev right now threw up. Is this our first? Mitch, you're in the chat. What are these things called? I feel like a 95-year-old man, but I appreciate it, Kev. What is it, a super chat or whatever it is? But do we think Aiyuk gets traded?
I don't think he gets traded. I think the Niners aren't happy with how much he wants right now. I think they're just at a little bit of a stalemate in the negotiation, but I think it's a matter of time. They can't lose Brandon Aiyuk. Debo's a running back playing receiver that's, you know, gets a little injury prone. They're going to find a way to pay him.
You know, they invest early in Ricky Pearsall. I don't know. It's the video that came out. What was that, on TikTok or Instagram, where he is talking to Jaden Daniels and he's saying they don't want me. I don't know. I'm not saying the relationship looks contentious from the outside in, but it doesn't look like those two sides are lining up. I mean, Brandon Aiyuk, he thinks he's worth it. I'm not saying he's not, but he thinks thinks he is worth X amount of dollars, and seemingly it doesn't look like the San Francisco 49ers, they don't agree, but maybe they don't have the budget for him right now. Mitch is in the chat. Cover your ears. Brandon Aiyuk might be down here in Pittsburgh sooner rather than later.
Oh, there's the true motive there. There's the true motive. JB's holding out for hopes for that receiver to complement Pickens, but JB, it's not happening. A little immaturity on Aiyuk with that video. Pearsall's the future Debo replacement. He's the guy that's going to get dumped at some point. Not Brandon Aiyuk. There's just no way they let a talent go. They're in a Dallas situation, but they got a little more time to pay Purdy. Not much.
Yeah, but even if you do move on from Aiyuk, and I don't want to get too into the weeds here, but I think it's a great comment there from Kev. You have George Kittle, you have Deebo Samuel, you have Christian McCaffrey. Aging. You spent a first-round draft pick on Ricky Pearsall, so you see something in him that you clearly like. Like, there's still enough pieces there. Is Brandon Aiyuk an incredible talent? Yes, that's not the point of the conversation. I think it's closer to 50-50 that Aiyuk is not there week one. And I've said it multiple times. I think there's a very good chance that Debo and Aiyuk are not both on that roster to start the season. So we'll see.
JB.
All right. Well, I talked about tearing down from Jordan Addison.
JB, last thing, the thought pros, they can't do that to Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy needs Brandon Aiyuk. He needs him. This isn't like superstar quarterback that can scale back at receiver. He needs Brandon Aiyuk.
He doesn't need Brandon Aiyuk whenever he is a system quarterback, right? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And he's in a great system. Brock Purdy can excel with Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey.
We'll see.
There are teams that would kill.
I don't know if he can excel. I don't know if he can excel with all those guys ultimately. I don't know.
Trust me. I saw your trash Purdy comments in the Discord the other day, and I was like, not today. Because I was ready to go off. So maybe that's where my negative comment came out towards you when I was saying I hate drafting with you.
Oh, get me again. Touche.
Busiest man in the world. All right, so we're tearing down from Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison for Jermaine Burton in a 25-second 12-team start 10.
Smash Addison.
And then Addison, this was an interesting one because I don't know that you need the plus here, but Jordan Addison for Isaiah Pacheco and a 25-second.
I don't really feel like we're tearing down. I have Pacheco in that same. I have him ahead of James Cook by one, believe it or not. I think Cook's got little fumbling challenges here and there, and Buffalo loves to pass. Give me Jordan Addison. Oh, sorry, give me Pacheco in second on this one.
What?
Yeah, I'd rather Pacheco.
Why did you mention Buffalo and the fumbling?
James Cook. As much as I like James Cook, he's just someone I'm keeping an eye on. He's had a little bit of. Cook was involved in the other trade with Addison to be cross positional to Cook, but then tear down to Pacheco. I have Pacheco is good or better than James Cook. There's just some flaws in Cook's game that I'm keeping an eye on.
I just want to make sure that you realize it was Pacheco that we were talking about. That's all.
Yeah, I was just going back comparison to the other running backs we were talking about in Addison trades. I'm with you.
Guys, I think Dan is rattled today. He's got the AirPod issues. He's getting heat in the Discord, and now I'm questioning his takes here. I don't know. I think he's rattled. All right, well, let's move on here.
A little rusty. It's 7 days in Florida. I'm getting back in the swing. Let's heat it up with this next one.
7 days in Florida with the kids. Your brain might be a little fried. I get it. All right, JSN. Dynasty Daddy, wide receiver 30, KTC 25, Fantasy Calc 26. I'm at 32. Let me go through some numbers here, Dan, before you spit some facts at everyone. 1.32 yards per route run, 62nd out of the 102 receivers that I previously mentioned that had 35 targets or more. 42nd out of 102 with the number of routes. That was kind of a slower paced offense. It was still a decently high pass to run ratio, but the pace was slow. Now you have Mike McDonald. You have Ryan Grubb, former OC at the University of Washington. lackluster 8.8 points per game at wide receiver 60 for JSN. But if you go back and you look at the data that's available with rookie wide receivers, even if they're a first round receiver, if you're right around 9 points per game in PPR, there is a very good chance that you're at least maintaining value. And I think JSN did just that. Targets per route run, he was 50th at 19%, 69% slot rate. That was the 12th highest. So I think if we're looking at this offense and we expect them to utilize 11 personnel at least as much as they did last year with a faster pace, that kind of bodes well for JSN. Sixth lowest ADOT, lower touchdown rate, but high yards after the catch. That's kind of where he excelled. So right now, Dan, we talk about some of the things that we saw in 2023. We talk about different market values. Where are you on JSN?
When I look compared to, I have him 26th, you have him 32nd, which isn't really drastic, but it does tell me a little bit that
they're all kind of clumped together.
You know, but there's a little distance there, JB, which, you know, when you look at him maybe as one of the more interesting guys in this Dynasty Daddy bubble of highly traded, you know, are JSN owners being a little impatient, trading them? Are they selling because they, you know, they're out too soon? Or are they visionary and like, this guy's going to pop? You mentioned coaching changes, you know, Seattle now under Mike McDonald and the OC Ryan Grubb. Are they going to maintain that run first, you know, or is there some more pass game they could get out of that talented receiving corps? And we know it's a matter of time before Tyler Lockett turns that page. So I'm on him. I think we just have to be patient for the JSN rise. Will it come as quick as we want this year? Maybe not. You know, we might just get a little uptick, but this guy's talented, man. Like, he's still up there in my rankings where I just think he's in a fantasy football situation, or maybe you want to call it a real life situation where we just got to be a little more patient.
All right, well, let's see how patient you're willing to be. Packaging up here, JSN and a 25 first and a 25 third for Jonathan Taylor and a 25 second. 12 teams, start 11.
That start 11, yeah, I know depth could be nice. So give me JSN, the first, and that bonus. Well, I'll take the trade down from the third to the second to get that first.
Is there any additional context for this one? Because for me, there is. If that 25 first and second have the potential to be very close together,
it makes it less attractive. I always hope that first has a little potential, at least to be in the middle there. And then, you know, we look at this year. We have where the Brooks and the Benson went at value. Now that was probably exception to rule. Is a very deep draft this year. It probably will not be as deep next year. You know, if it is late, it makes it a little harder to replace JT with a running back. And that's kind of what I'm hoping to do with that first, to either get someone, you know, a running back replacement or just another stud. So now I got two studs in a start 11 league versus JT, who's not easy to get rid of. I love JT. I'm just thinking of the opportunity to get two studs. So I think your point is very valid. If that first and second are really close, could be a deal breaker.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if the AirPods are coming into play a little bit over there, Dan, but maybe it's just me. Maybe it's on my end. I don't know.
That's clear there. I heard it early in the show. I've been clear here now. I'm clear.
All right. For me,
clear. I think I heard a kid in the background. Did you have a kid make a loud shriek there in your background? I thought I heard a kid.
I mean, there's a good chance one of three of the maniacs upstairs. Who knows? But for me, if that 25 first and second could potentially be close together, I'm leaning JT. And when I say I'm leaning JT, I'm taking the JT side. But like you said, the strength of this 25 class as of now on paper, it looks to be running back, right? So I think there's a better chance of backfilling the running back position here in 2025 versus what we saw, especially this past year. So I would, the additional context is required for me. All right. JSN and Devon A. Chan for Garrett Wilson, 12 team start 10.
It's kind of a scary one, you know, but I'm going to go on the Garrett Wilson side. I just think big year coming with A-Rod. I think he's just elite talent. Again, a little scary because there's potential in giving up a explosive back in Achan and, you know, JSN's potential, but I'll go with Wilson.
JSN in a 25 second for Brandon Aiyuk, 14 start 10.
I'm with Aiyuk. I'm taking in the sure thing, I believe, elite receiver.
I also will go Aiyuk, and this ties in very nicely with that Addison trade we mentioned earlier. Addison in a second for Devontae Smith. I have Addison and JSN almost back to back, I think, in my tiers, in my rankings. So those are moves that I'm looking to make for that type of receiver. For picks, JSN for a 25 first and 26 second, 12 team start 11.
Start 11. I'm going to go with the picks.
I also
hope that pick's going to be something that could be better than JSN, right? And then you get that second as a bonus.
We talk about insulated value. We talk about the flexibility of those picks to do whatever you want with them during the season. Whereas JSN, if we're expecting a slowish start, that's certainly going to impact that value. Cross positional, JSN for Bryce Young, 12 team start 10, half PPR.
Half PPR definitely takes me to Bryce Young.
JSN for Cousins and Demario Douglas, 12 team start 11.
I'm under that assumption of super flex, need the quarterbacks. Unless I had a situation where I could really just dump a quarterback, I'll go with Cousins. And I like Pop. Don't love Pop, but I like him a lot.
12 teams start 9, half PPR for tight end premium. So 1.5 PPR for tight ends. JSN or Jake Ferguson?
Pains me to go against my heart here, but you cut the tight end premium on me. So with the tight end premium cut, I will go with JSN.
I was wondering how you were going to go there. All right. JSN for Jonathan Brooks, 12 team start 10.
I'm going to go with the talent and build my team with the young receiver. Give me JSN.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the young running back.
Nah. He's coming off that injury. Truba's still there.
He is coming off the injury, but he has that baked-in excuse if he's off to a slow start. JSN doesn't have that excuse anymore.
It's one of those situations where I love building on the young, talented receiver. I do think JSN is going to become a stud. So I'm just leaning JSN, JB. I'm sticking with that conviction on that pick.
All right, up next, we got Chris Olave. 2.07 yards per route run, 19th out of those 102 receivers. Volumes there, 26 most routes, 14.5 points per game, which was wide receiver 20. He was wide receiver 27 at 13.2 points per game in 2022. Targets per route run, he was 15th at 25%, 39% slot rate, 14 average depth of target. So that's 22nd highest. Average yards of catch or yards after catch, it was fine. But again, when you have the higher A dot, your yards after catch, it kind of takes a hit a little bit. And his touchdown rate wasn't very high at all. So we talk about regression. We talk about maybe an uptick from that perspective. It could be there. Dynasty Daddy, KTC, Fantasy Calc, all wide receiver 11. I'm at wide receiver 9, Dan.
JB, in the beginning of this show, you asked about, is there any receivers that, surprised me being traded a lot, maybe that kind of thing. Maybe this is the name here in Mr. Olave. And this is where I will bring I think I retweeted this Dynasty post this week where one of the takes was, is Chris Olave outside of the top 15 because of Carr? I'm going to bring in the droid challenge here. All right. R2D2 is coming live and he is throwing the flag. Chris Olave is top 12 and awesome despite Derek Carr. But JB's left the show. Come on, the Dobby, the R2D2, JB, we're reliving our childhood here, man. Fantasy football.
I wasn't a Star Wars kid.
But as you get older, I wasn't a Star Wars kid actually either. But then I binge watched them with my boy, and man, if you go to Universal and Disney and check out the Star Wars exhibits, they're pretty awesome. Like R2D2's talking to you, man. Jesus. So top 12 and awesome despite Carr. He's 10th in my rankings, JB.
You're nuts. All right, well, rapid fire. Olave for 225 first. 12 teams start 10.
Yeah, as much as I just hyped up the Olave train, give me those 225 first. I can't turn that down.
Yeah, that one was interesting for me because there were very few receivers that I'm willing to give. Like, it's weird, right? Because there aren't really any receivers that I want to give the 225 first for that I think could be accepted. Like, I'll gladly do that for Jefferson, Chase, Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Marvin Harrison. Maybe that's crazy, but I'm doing that. And then it kind of gets interesting because you start to get like the Garrett Wilson, the Olave type players. And like that's super close for me, but I would much rather get there value wise while hanging on to one of those first. So if I could do like a 25 first, a pair of seconds, would you do that?
Right on there. Now it's becoming, hey, give me that elite for just the first. I'm going with Olave.
Yeah. So value wise, I think it's there, but I wouldn't want to give up the value in that exact situation. All right, we're packaging up here. Olave in a 25 first and a 25 second for Justin Jefferson. 12 team, but it's start 13.
Whew, man. Yeah, this is like even, and I bolded that start 13. To me, this one comes with an asterisk. It really depends on that first. This needs to be a crappy team giving me that first. If you could give me what I believe has a great chance of being an awesome first and Olave in a league where you got to start 13, and I get the second, I might go off Jefferson. But if that's anything contending, I'll stick with JJ and ride it out.
I have no issue with that. The start 13 certainly makes it more interesting. Start 10, not contemplating the Olave side there. Olave and Pacheco, and Detroit Lion fans, hold your ears, cover your ears here for Jahmyr Gibbs, 12 team start 10.
Mitch might be throwing the challenge flag here from his cabin in Yellowstone, but no, as much as I love Gibbs and I love to be able to package guys to get him, I'm not packaging Olave and Pacheco for him. Give me Olave and Pacheco. That's just two studs for one, no matter how you cut it.
I also lean the Olave side. What would it take for you to pivot to the Gibbs side? A random 25 second?
No, because then that second's still a little bit of a gamble. It's not going to be as deep of a draft as it was this year. I would need I need something close to Pacheco, JB, like something Pollard or a late first, or Pacheco's a stud back. I'm a top 12 back and Pollard, a top 12 wide receiver. People are down on Pollard. Like he seems down in people's rankings, but
you
if
talk
I could get him,
you talk about Pollard. That is a 25 second essentially.
I guess.
So if I give you the 25 second, go flip it.
I want to contend now. Yeah, I guess I would have to flip it, but that's not always necessarily easy. It depends on the league and those that are going after drafts. Or I would need if we want to go apples for apples and another receiver like a Tank Dell, Jordan Addison. It needs to be a comparable trade. I need two studs for two studs here. Again, I love Gibbs. I think long term he's got a much larger window than Pacheco because Pacheco's does run reckless, as Mitch notes, and could get banged up over time. But that don't scare me right now. He's young and in his prime. Kansas City's all in on him. He's the guy. That's just two productive starters that can help you win your league for one. And Montgomery's still there in Detroit. Let's not lose sight of that.
That is one of the best 1-2 punches in the NFL, if not the best.
Agree.
Okay.
But you're giving up 2 studs, 2 top 12 players, right?
I just think Gibbs gives you I'm taking Olave and Pacheco, but it is far closer for me. If you're going to throw in a random 25 second, I'm going to switch.
Everyone likes that sexy toy in Gibbs. I just need a little bit more substance.
I think he's giving you difference making upside on a weekly basis. And I don't know right now. I don't know that we're getting that from Olave, Pacheco, Dobby, R2D2, any of them. All right. Olave in a 25 second for Jonathan Taylor, 12 team start 10, but in this one it's half PPR.
Half PPR. This is one where I take the JT side, man, and build that team on that stud running back.
Agree. Tier down here. Chris Olave for Tank Dell and Mike Evans, 12 team start 10.
This is one where I go Olave. I love the youth long term. Tank Dell is youth long term as well, but it's a little bit more injury prone and a lot of mouths to feed there. I love Evans, Hall of Famer. I think he still has another juicy season in him, but the end's coming soon. So give me Olave for Dynasty.
This is a super fair trade for me. I think it's very roster dependent. In a bubble without any additional context, I would prefer Olave, but again, like, you certainly could frame this based on your roster where I'm going to take the other side. I think it's a really solid trade that we pulled up there from dynastydaddy.com. Chris Olave for Zay Flowers and Jayden Reed, 12-team start 10.
This is one where you do take the other side. Give me Zay Flowers and Jayden Reed. That's, again, just two studs versus one stud. And maybe it depends on what you believe in Jayden Reed, but I believe in him.
We really have different definitions of the word stud.
Well, I mean, there's like an alpha elite CD Lamb, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, but these guys are still studs on your rosters. When you get into these competitive deep dynasty leagues, man, it really helps having the Zay Flowers and Jayden Reeds versus, having to worry about starting the, aging Keenan Allens and Tyler Lockett's or banking on Jalen Polks. I mean, give me a guy that I know is top 24.
I'm taking Olave over Zay Flowers and Jayden Reed. That's just my journey, as I typically say. All right, last one with Chris Olave. Chris Olave for DJ Moore, Jacoby Myers, and a 26-second, 12-team start 10.
I go Olave here. I could live without Jacoby. I can't wait for the 26-second. Much as I love DJ Moore, I'd rather Olave.
All right. What's the line in Vegas that we get close to the 9 players that we're talking about today? I don't know.
We're on our way. I'm feeling. How many
we covered 3.
2. We'll go more rapid fire. All
right. Jaylen Waddle. Fantastic season. 2.63 yards per route run, tied 6th. 67th most routes, and that was because he missed some time. 14.2 points per game. Wide receiver 21. Wide receiver 13 in 2022. Targets per route run, he was 6th at 27%. 24% slot rate. 10.4 ADOT. It's kind of a lower touchdown rate, but he gives you that high yards after catch ability. So Jaylen Waddle, Dynasty Daddy 14, KTC 12, Fantasy Calc 13. I'm at 13. Dan, how do you view Jaylen Waddle here?
Yeah, man, I think all our rankings that we're referencing are the same. I'm at 14. To me, he's one tough SOB like Braun Strowman, but the injuries do concern me some. The offense runs through Hill and Waddle. Age, talent, and situation still strong, JB. So I'm in on him, but there are some very interesting trades you reference here.
All right. Jaylen Waddle for a 25 first and 26 first, 12-team start 10.
I'll take the 2 firsts.
All right. Is that kind of similar to the Chris Olave situation? Like if it was a 25 first and a pair of seconds that I mentioned?
Yeah, because you're waiting on that 26 first, which to me is like the value of a second. Just the receiver talent in coming out of college football is so great that I just think I could draft a Waddle, and I do look forward to getting that first and 26.
Okay. So do you have Chris Olave over Jaylen Waddle?
I do.
Okay. I do too. So I'm just asking. All right, we're tearing down here. Waddle for the recently extended Ramondre Stevenson and Calvin Ridley. This is a 12-team start 11, Dan.
This one scares me a little. I want to puke in my mouth a little bit, but I'm going to go because of the start 11 with Ramondre and Ridley. Do like Ramondre, don't like his situation. I like Ridley. I just think there's enough production out of those two guys in the start 11 that's going to help me win this year, and they're young enough that I'll get a few years out of them. Don't love it, though. I definitely love Waddle the best out of all those guys.
So you wouldn't say Ramondre and Ridley are 2 studs, right? At this point?
Not with Ramondre's situation in New England. They might be stacking the box with nowhere to go. So, no, I would not, JB.
Jaylen Waddle for Deebo Samuel in a 26 first.
A little bit of a tough one, but I'll take Deebo in the first. I think I'll get a couple good years out of Deebo until I get that first.
I agree. That's a pivot that I would be looking to make there in that tier. And when you're looking at my tiers, which are part of the Dynasty Theory Patreon, $5 a month, 7-day free trial. Come check it out. But that's Nico Collins, Devontae Smith, Brandon Aiyuk, Michael Pittman, DK Metcalf, DJ Moore. I'll pivot off of all of them for a future first. And what I see is, again, one of the most undervalued wide receivers across the Dynasty landscape in Deebo Samuel. Jaylen Waddle for Tank Dell in a 25-second.
I'll take Waddle.
Waddle for Deontay Johnson in a 25 first. Start 11.
I'll take Deontay in the first. Need more production
Jaylen
there.
Waddle,
Start 11 helps that.
Jaylen Waddle for DJ Moore in a 25 second. This is half PPR and start 9.
DJ Moore in a second.
We're going to package up here. Jaylen Waddle, Nico Collins, Elijah Moore in a 25 first. Again, Waddle, Nico, Elijah Moore in a 25 first for CD Lamb.
You just want to torture me this morning here going against my Cowboys, but it's another one, man. Just Waddle, Nico in a 25 first. That's too much to pass up.
And then Waddle in a 25 second for Gibbs.
Take Gibbs here.
All right. Well, we're going to stay in Detroit. A little bit lower from a value perspective, but Jameson Williams. Dan, you good over there?
I'm good.
Do you have another prop? Is it? Jeez,
maybe.
Right.
I might.
Jameson Williams, 1.47 yards per route run, 56 out of that 102 wide receiver sample, 98th most routes, wide receiver 75 at a whopping 6.7 points per game. Targets per route run, fairly low, 17%. Out of the slot, 35% of the time. 7th highest average depth of target at 16 yards. Lower touchdown rate, average yards after catch, just kind of in the middle. But again, you talk about the average depth of target, fairly decent yards after catch considering. Dynasty Daddy 49, KTC 49, Fantasy Calc 47. I am actually lower than market at wide receiver 53. Can Jameson Williams kind of get back to his collegiate form here, Dan? Kind of a really interesting and wonky start to his NFL career. Can he get on track here in 2024?
Man, I love the Bama receivers we're talking about, and Jaylen Waddle and J-Mo here. I still believe the Bama J-Mo is arriving. We might need the DeLorean to go back to the future, JB, all right? But we are almost out of time, as you see that plate in the background there. I have him at 50, probably in between your rankings, but I am still a believer. And 50 is not terrible. It's just there's 50 talented receivers that you could build your team around there, but he could spike this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's in that territory of he even if he produces, let's say he gets up to 10, 11, 12 points per game, it's just so replaceable. So replaceable. So Jameson Williams for a 25 second.
This one here, I'm a smash J-Mo.
Jameson Williams for Najee Harris.
Now we go in the tier of sure things. Give me Najee.
1.5 PPR for tight ends. Jameson Williams for Jake Ferguson.
There's a time where the tight end premium does not scare me away. I'll take Jake. I'm a believer.
And then this is a classic youth for veteran move. Jameson Williams for Amari Cooper.
Cooper still got juice, man. Give me Coop.
All right. So just to recap here overall, and I'll do this quickly, but Jordan Addison, JSN, like for me, it's a package up or tier down for the most part for both of them, or get a cross-positional move. Chris Olave, I like the price to acquire. The only one that I wasn't really loving was that 225 first. Jaylen Waddle, as long as he's healthy, I think he's going to continue to be an extremely efficient receiver, and he's getting a little bit close to that range. Like I would love to package up to one of the absolute elites if possible. Jameson Williams, I think he's a really good guy to either incorporate into a larger trade both ways, to either get a deal done if you're moving him off your roster, or maybe he just gives you enough value to get a deal done where you're acquiring him. But ideally, I'd be looking to move off and it seems like you agree cross-positionally, like you were taking Najee, Jake Ferguson, and then Amari Cooper. So I think he's a guy that I would be targeting teams that might be looking to get into more of a rebuild, and they're willing to take a flyer on Jameson Williams as opposed to the Amari Cooper or Najee Harris, which you see as actual trades that have been completed.
There's just too much risk in those trades, JB. I want to acquire JMO. I just not at the price of those studs.
Yeah. T. Higgins, disappointing 2023. He was wide receiver 42 at 11.5 points per game. He was at 14.9 points per game in 2022. Targets per route run wasn't fantastic, 19%. Low slot rate, decently high ADOT at 13.1. He's got a higher touchdown rate. He's actually a decently high yards after catch. Dynasty Daddy 23, KTC 23, Fantasy Calc 21. I'm also at 21. And then I failed to mention the 1.66 yards per route run. That was 41st out of the 102 receivers. So again, was it just a down year? Can he bounce back, or is this going to be an ongoing trend? And after 2024, we don't know where T. Higgins lands. Could be for the worse.
Yeah, not much to add, JB, other than he's the top number 2 wide receiver in the game for a team. You know, there's Chase and Higgins, Hill and Waddle, those kind of guys. He's either with Joe Burrow or he's another team's number 1 in 2025. Cincinnati's loaded with young receivers that maybe something, maybe nothing. I think that's what we'll be watching really closely this year. And Burton, Iosivas, and Jones. And you're throwing your handcrafted challenge flag.
Paper towel. You said he was the top number 2 receiver. Like, I'm taking Waddle over him. I'm taking Devontae Smith over him. If you want to say he's one of the top, I can live with that comment.
Yeah, he's a top number 2 in the game. I just think he's in this situation where he's.
I'll take Deebo Samuel.
Connected to Joe Burrow. No, I wouldn't take Deebo Samuel over him.
No.
I can understand
from a real
I can
NFL
understand your other arguments.
From a real NFL perspective. Sorry, let me rephrase that. I think I would take Deebo.
We're talking. Since when are you talking real NFL? That's my lines as the coach, JB. I'm talking dynasty here. I'm just thinking you either get Joe Burrow or you get a big free agent landing somewhere as a team's number 1 receiver. That just makes him really attractive. Where he's not playing second fiddle to I just like him. But I'm with you. Top number 2. I respect your challenge flag there.
All right, I appreciate it. T. Higgins for Christian Watson in a 25-second. This is a start 12.
Start 12. If it's a high second, again, crappy team, I might be tempted, but I'm going to pick T here.
T. Higgins for Calvin Ridley in a 25-second. This is a 14-team start 11.
I liked Watson more than Ridley. I'm going to go with T. I don't want to get stuck with Ridley.
T. Higgins in a 25-second for Devontae Smith. This is a start 9.
And I guess in respect to your top second point before, I'll take Devontae.
T. Higgins in a 25-second for Michael Pittman in a 26th third.
I have Pittman much higher. Give me Pittman in the third.
This
Late
is
third,
another tight end premium, just the extra half point. T. Higgins for Mark Andrews.
It's really close. I don't like that the tight end premiums cut, but I know the tight end landscape. If you're losing Mark Andrews, I'm not getting stuck with anyone else. So I'm going to go with Andrews still.
And then T. Higgins for a 25 first and 26 second, which I was very surprised this actually got done. So I want to see where you are.
It can't be a late first. I'd be tempted to take the first and the second, but it can't be a late one. It can't be coming from a contending stud team.
I will take the picks regardless of where they're coming from.
This is 26 is too long to wait for that second. So if it's going to be a late contending first next year, I think I'd rather have T as that Sherlock receiver. He'll be better than the 11th, 12th pick of next year's rookie draft, 10th, 11th, 12th pick of next year's rookie draft. It's just not going to be as deep a draft next year. I believe that.
But again, how much of a difference does he really give you in your weekly lineup this year? And then how much extra flexibility do those picks give you where you could look to attack from a different direction? Now, I'll take the picks. So anybody in my leagues, if I have T. Higgins, and I have a decent amount of T. Higgins, throw a 25 first and 26 second. Let's get something done. In 12 team. Because I'm in a few 16, 14 team leagues where people try to sneak in, this is a first. Oh, it might be that 116. So I don't know. All right. Jayden Reed, extremely efficient 2023. 2.05 yards per route run, eclipsing that 2 yards per route run. Like it's one of the top thresholds you're looking for in receivers. That was 22nd. 66 most routes. So again, extremely efficient. Wasn't really boosted by volume, where we talk about some other guys like a Jordan Addison that wasn't so efficient, but had a ton of volume. He was wide receiver 26 and 13.6 points per game, 14% target share versus a 21% target share with and without Christian Watson. So if Christian Watson, if those hammies stay intact, Jayden Reed falls in that bucket of guys that I'm either looking to package up. And you saw that my Zay Flowers, Jayden Reed trade scenario for Chris Olave, right? Package up.
Did.
Maybe tier down, get some insulated value, or look cross positionally. So that was a difference of 5.5 points per game with and without Christian Watson. Targets per route run, 23%. That's pretty fantastic. 76% slot rate. That's the sixth highest across all 102 of those receivers. If they're not in 11 personnel, are we going to see an uptick? Because we didn't see it, with the 66 most routes run there in 2023. He's got a super high touchdown rate. Also, he has a fairly high yards after catch, so he's able to do some things after making the reception, obviously. We talk about Jordan Addison with the high touchdown rate. We got to talk about Jayden Reed in that same light. This is the one that I think I am furthest away from on market from the guys that we've talked about. Dynasty Daddy, 33. KTC, 30. Fantasy Calc, 38. I'm at 42. We're in the 40s, Dan.
Man, that's just giving you the penalty flag. I'm not throwing the challenge flag. I'm throwing a 15-yard penalty on you for that 42nd ranking there. Again, I don't want to challenge you because I respect your rankings, and hey, we've got guys we like, and that's all good. But JB, man, that talent is real. I don't love the crowd in Green Bay, but Jordan Love, man, if the last 8 weeks of last year are any sign of what he could do and what he could support and that momentum he took into the playoffs, I have no issue. I'm super high on Jayden Reed, so I'm throwing the penalty flag on you, JB.
So are you closer to that wide receiver 30 mark then? Is that kind of where you are?
Yeah, I have him at 34. Again, there's some stud receivers above him, but if he can kind of sort through the crowd and get a little more volume, I think he's going to be a little bit stronger in year 2. He knows what's expected to be an NFL receiver now. I can see him climbing from that 34.
All right, some rapid fire trades. Jayden Reed and Josh Downs for a 25 first and a 25 second, 12-team start 11.
Unless that first has very high potential because it's a crappy team, I'm going to go at Reed and Downs.
No surprise, I would take the picks. Jayden Reed for a 25 first, 12-team, but start 8.
Start 8. Give me the first. Give me 25 first.
Start 9.
Probably still the first.
Start 10.
It depends where that team is that's trading me.
Okay, so that's kind of your threshold. Jayden Reed and a 25 third for Terry McLaurin, 12-team start 10.
Reed in the third, smash.
I was really surprised to see a trade that you needed to add to Reed, anything to Reed to get McLaurin. That was interesting.
Dynasty, we're talking age, man. McLaurin's going to hit that cliff soon. Not yet, but soon.
That one was really interesting for me. If we're talking about, like, from a market perspective, it didn't really make too much sense for me. Reed and Pickens for AJ Brown and a 26 third. This is a start 11.
I just might be a homer here, but I'm going Reed and Pickens. And the homer's more of a Pickens thing. I'm super high on Pickens.
I was on Pristine Auction last night. I'm pretty much on there every day looking at stuff. And they had one of the like metallic-y looking yellow George Pickens helmets. And I was dangerously close to bidding on it. I did not.
I'm casting a spell, JB. Rethink it today. Hop back on there. I'd love to see a Pickens helmet behind you instead of that Bengals thing, which I just can't grasp, being a Steelers fan and all.
It's Jamar Chase.
The Bengals helmet's nice, but it might need to go to the side.
No, we got Jamar Chase. We got
Justin Jefferson. He's awesome, but you're a Steelers fan.
I am. I bleed black and gold. All right, Jayden Reed and Zay Flowers for Brandon Aiyuk. Start 9.
These two trades, man, they are brutally hard, but rapid fire, just give me Aiyuk.
And it's funny because the very next trade, and we talked about this earlier. So it's the same trade. Jayden Reed and Zay Flowers for Chris Olave. So you're still Reed and Flowers.
Yeah, but both these trades, again, super, super close. The ones that start 9 leagues, so I went Aiyuk. Start 10, I'll take Reed and Flowers.
Yeah. All right. Two guys left. Jahan Dotson, 0.82 yards per route run. It's never good when there is not a number before that decimal when we're talking about yards per route run. That was 94th out of those 102 receivers. He had the 5th most routes, 7.3 points per game. That was wide receiver 72. Targets per route run, 12%. That was 92nd. 42% slot rate, average depth of target, 10 yards, low touchdown rate, which is kind of interesting because year one, especially in the first half, super high touchdown rate, and low yards after the catch, which is not what you want to see when you have an average depth of target floating around 10 yards. With all that said, I am still slightly above market for this absolute like dumpster fire of a 23 season for him. Dynasty Daddy and Fantasy Calcer wide receiver 57, KTC 55. I'm at 52. What are we doing here, Dan?
JB, man, you're seeing through the weeds, man, and we're both there, 52, 51 in our rankings. I just think he's a talented receiver that got stuck in the mud of a bad situation. You take out Curtis Samuel, you add Jaden Daniels, you bring in Cliff Kingsbury. I think Dotson is a big riser, man. So this is one of those times where you just got to ignore the sheets, JB. You got to ignore the sheets.
Ignore the sheets. All right, rapid fire. Dotson in a 25 first for Jonathan Brooks. Start 11.
Start 11. Dotson in the first. Smash.
Dotson for a pair of thirds. Start 12.
Oh, super smash.
Dotson for Jaylen Warren.
Dotson. I didn't say smash. It's fair.
No, you didn't say smash.
I'm betting on Dotson.
It's
my conviction coming out there.
I'm going Jaylen Warren there.
You're a Steelers fan. You should.
That's a no-brainer for me. And then I like the flexibility of getting that first with Dotson, but in that first trade for Brooks. But I'm going to steal a line from you that we've used this episode. That depends where that first is. Like if I'm a contending team and I could pivot to Brooks, I'll add a Dotson. And then the pair of thirds, give me the chance. I mean, might be throwing those thirds away and lighting them on fire, but we'll see how it plays out. Dotson for downs.
This one is even. I might lean Dotson because of his opportunity as wide receiver too. After McLaurin, it's him, and then it's kind of muck. Where downs you're competing with Pittman and A.D. Mitchell, and you even got Pierce on the bench. So again, I think I have Downs a couple of spots higher in my rankings, JB, but because of the opportunity, I might roll with Dotson.
I would go Downs here, but give me any plus either side. I'll pivot. Dotson for Kendre Miller. 16 teams start 8.
I might just be too low on Miller, and maybe I regret that, but I'm going to go Dotson.
Where am I here? Kendre Miller.
2 years ago, JB, Dotson was a rising, young, talented receiver. He's still very young. I feel like he's really being penalized for his situation last year.
But it's not just situation. It was horrendous. Like, again, you're under 1 yard per route run. Like, it was horrendous.
Yeah, I think it's the way they used them. I think the team was bad. Like, I just think they just kept, I don't know. I think it's just the way they deployed him because it wasn't that way 2 years ago.
All right. Well, with the Dotson Miller, give me any plus either way, and I'll take it. Dotson for a 25 second.
I'll take the gamble on Dotson again.
No, give me that pick. I can live with the pair of thirds. You want to do that? Great. But give me the 25 second. No brainer. That's a no brainer for me, Dan. All right, let's wrap it up with your boy George Pickens here. A really impressive 2023 season. You talk about bad situations. Look no further than the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback room in 2023. 2.11 yards per route run. That was 17th out of 102 receivers, 28th most routes run. Wide receiver 36. The fact that he was able to crack that threshold is really incredible. Targets per route run, a little bit lower. He was 48th at 19%, 17% slot rate, decently high average depth of target at 13.7, lower touchdown rate, decent yards after catch. Can Russell Wilson and or Justin Fields really unlock George Pickens here in 2024?
John, for you and all the listeners, I just want to say this is the way. I got the dark saber here. George Pickens is the way. He is a dog. You saw it last year. Deontay Johnson's gone. He had an uptick from Pickett to Mason Rudolph, JB. If he could produce with Mason Rudolph down the stretch, now he gets Russ or Fields. This is an improved Steelers team. I'm telling you, JB, this is the way, George Pickens.
All right. He's Dynasty Daddy wide receiver 24, KTC 24, Fantasy Calc 23. I'm really not far removed from market at 27. Pickens or Kyren Williams?
This is going to be fun. Pickens, although it does depend on team need in this trade. Kyren could save a running back situation, so I wouldn't throw the challenge flag.
Can you turn your lightsaber off over there? Because it's picking up. Like, geez, oh man. So you went Pickens?
I went Pickens. This was the Pickens pick of all these with an asterisk. It does depend on team need.
All right. Pickens for Kmet and Mixon, 0.75 tight end premium.
Pickens.
Pickens and Reed for A.J. Brown in a 26th third. This was a trade that we actually mentioned when we talked about Jayden Reed.
Yeah, I put it here in my notes. Are you trying to trick me, JB? Because we saw this trade earlier, but I'm Pickens and Reed again.
Pickens for Javonte Williams.
Pickens.
Pickens for Keon Coleman in a second.
There's a reason I have Pickens ranked 19th, which is higher than anybody on this list. I have Pickens here.
And then Pickens for 26 first and Kraft. 12-team, start 10, 0.5 tight end premium.
A year ago, I was trading some first-round picks to get Pickens in different combos of deals. I'm not waiting for 26 first. Give me Pickens. He's just...
Final thoughts.
Find me a better rivalry than Dan in 26 picks, because he's not waiting for any 26 picks. All right, Dan, for the 250th time here, Dynasty Theory, I am actually sporting the old Super Flexology shirt.
Blast from the past.
Yeah, I threw something on over it, though, because the shirt, it's a few years old. Unfortunately, I've gained a few pounds since I originally had the shirt. So I threw this on just to layer up here. Got to layer up. I know it's a million degrees outside, but all right. So episode 250, 9 trade targets, either trading for or trading away. Hopefully everybody enjoyed this show. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you have not. Dan, final thoughts for the listeners.
Just a little nugget, man. June's going to be a busy research study time for us. We'll break down a lot more scenarios in future episodes, but the countdown begins as 24 training camp reporting dates start July 13th. The Ravens rookies will be the first one, and those training camps will open from July 13th to July 24th. And that's when the real news comes, and that's when you know it's go time, JB. So we're going to get as much as we can done on Dynasty Theory until July rolls around.
All right. We appreciate everybody tuning in. Extremely grateful. For Dan Lamagna, Mitch Sorensen, I'm John Bauer. Have a great day.